On the microphones, pure and uncensored American straight talk. Never quit. You're locked and loaded with Chris Peranto and Ian Scotto. This is the Battleline Podcast.
Which is on, motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
The switch is on, Battleline Podcast, and we've had some very different guests recently, which I've enjoyed. And, you know, we're going to have special operations guys again, and once June comes around, we should, all things, you know, working as planned, be back in the studio, sound quality be back up to par. But with that, man, this is the first show off of Memorial Day. I know that you taught a class in the Illinois area with Battleline Tactical. And we'd just love to hear about that, and also kind of reflecting on Memorial Day. And one thing I was thinking about is a lot of the guys I know didn't necessarily die in combat, but I know people who took their own lives, PTSD type of thing. And I know that's not necessarily who you remember on Memorial Day, but at the same time, you know, it would cross my mind is, had those guys not have seen combat, I don't think they would have taken that route. So I try to remember all the guys that we've lost.
No, you of course you do. Whether it's combat, like actual combat or not, really, brother. And this is speaking from a veteran, speaking from somebody who's seen some. It doesn't matter, man. Lives lost is lives lost, and you're right. The cause of when you come home, and the demons that you have to deal with, they lead you down bad roads. And we've talked about it, and people have listened to me talk, or listen to other shows, or me on other shows, knows that I went down that same road. So yeah, I don't, brother, you don't ever have to me, I'm telling, if a veteran tells you, that's not really, they didn't die in combat, well, you can tell them Tano said go fuck themselves, because loss of life, regardless, from a veteran, Memorial Day, whether it's home or abroad. If you've been abroad, a lot of that is the cause if you take your life at home. And it is. And I'm just being completely honest with you. So you're in the right of course, memorializing, just like memorializing Saint, which, if you guys don't know who Saint is, that was Drew. That was his call sign. That's what hit. I was Tano, and that was Saint. And I think it was like a parody on Drew's call sign too, because he definitely was no saint when we were working. but that was him, and that was Drew. And
by the way, just because I want to make things clear, he's not one of those guys who took his
but
he is a guy who I think, coming back from combat, dealt with a lot of things.
A lot of things, and that's where I get it. I never really look, because there's a lot of buddies that I've had, and I'm saying a lot. I'm saying five buddies. To me, that's a lot. That they didn't take their lives. They didn't put a gun in their mouth. They didn't do it, but they took risks, and they went down very deep rabbit holes, very deep bouts of depression that caused them to get into foreign substances, get into drugs, heavy drinkers, or extreme risk takers, driving your motorcycle down the road at 120 miles an hour. That to me, as a veteran speaking, and like it or not, guys, you hate me if you want, I don't care if you do, like it or not, that is essentially you are attempting to, you're pushing the envelope, you're tempting fate, and because you're having such a hard time dealing with coming back home and dealing with the things you saw, and you're never normal again when you come back. It's hard to come back and associate back into the United States wonderful way of life, because you've seen how awful it is out there in other countries, and how lucky we have it. And it's just hard to just get back into, and you never can. But what those of us that do understand that and say, well, you know what, I just can't, I'm not going to be that same person anymore. That's when you're able to accept, well, this is the person you are now, and are able to fight off those demons that want to take you away. So I again, and to our family out there, you're awesome, love him. All right, I would consider you a Gold Star family member, whether the government does or not. I don't give a shit. I think you are, and I love y'all out there. I think you're amazing families, Gold Star families, especially you guys, and the Dolts family too. Ryan Dolts' family, Cheryl, Oh, we could do whole. We should. You know what? We're gonna have her on, brother. We're gonna get Cheryl
Yeah,
Days on.
oh for sure. And also we're coming up on a year of Drew, and I know Scott Dwyer, his brother, listens to the show, also a veteran. So maybe we can get Scott Dwyer on for the anniversary of this and talk about who Drew was as a person.
Well,
And
that's up to Scott, man.
yeah,
I'm game, dude. You just I am, bro. You just tell me who's on. Like, okay.
yeah. No, we have a
Knock
lot
it
of
out.
people in mind. The one thing I'm looking forward to is, like I said, being back in studio and having people sit down with me because I always think that's the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also wanted to hear about on a probably happier note
Oh, it
the
was. Yeah, it
course
was
that you
great.
did. Yeah.
It was fantastic. We run it at the compound. It's Crete, Illinois. An old Ranger, Vietnam Ranger by the name of Pat. It's his range. I love this guy. He's crusty as hell. The stereotypical Vietnam Ranger that's been through a lot of shit, and that's him. But he's it's wonderful. And we had 25 people there, 26 people. It was 25 or 26, which if you're an instructor, that's a pretty dang big class. But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
myself and Benny Glossop and Ben Morgan, so it's all three of us. So we just split people up and we round robin them. So it's everybody. We're always moving it, and I run the training like a football practice, man. It's just 2 hours, and you're moving to the next station. 2 hours moving to the next station. I think you get the most out of it, and you're constantly moving, and you're not standing around. And it was tremendous, man. And we got again the typical what we usually get when we teach in Crete at the compound. We always get some Chicago LEOs, and I love Chicago. I know you're out in the New York area, brother, but to me, Chicago still is the greatest city in the United States. I don't care about their politics. I really, whatever. The people are awesome, and their law enforcement, man, at least the ones that I'm around, when they come in and train, and this isn't always how it is, when they come in and train with me, they just get after it. They push themselves. There's no ego. There's no bravado. There's no, oh man, I did so many no knocks more than you ever did, Tano, and I had no knocks an 80-year-old getting into her house. Yeah, I get it. But those guys are so, and you don't see that a lot with the law enforcement community anymore, where they'll come to a class or you train them and they want to listen because you're not part of their law enforcement training academy. And these guys, damn, and out of all the people that are going to get into some shit, it's Chicago police.
That's what I was thinking. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if it's because of that, and I think maybe other officers in other areas might be jaded and say, "I'm not going to have a guy pull a handgun out on me," which is common in Chicago.
Well, honestly, brother, it's the exact opposite. It's the guys in the smaller departments normally are the ones that come in all motivated, and it's the ones at the bigger departments that are like, I know everything, and that's typical. Honestly, it's just a bravado thing. But that being said, when you work in Chicago and these guys come in, and we have he was I'm not Marines. I'm saying this all due respect because I'm saying he was a former Marine that is a police officer now in Chicago, and the dude comes in and he's a great shooter, and he's learning the tactics. He's getting the tactics down. He was an athlete in college, and the dude comes in and puts out every time we're out there, and it's amazing. It just warms my heart because it gives me the feeling of this is how law enforcement guys should be. And then you get these civilians that come in too, that come and train at that place where at the compound where Daniel Lombard of Devad Defense teaches there on a regular basis. So a lot of those are his students that come in and train with us. So they're avid shooters, and they just come in, and what I love about it is they just get after it. They listen, they get after it, they do the training. And this one, a defensive concealed carry, to learn how to move with a concealed gun. It's not just standing there and shooting. It's moving with that gun. It's being able to get it out of your holster quickly, being able to clear just the ability to clear your shirt, to get it out of the way so you don't catch it on your gun and you have a devastating accident for real or on the range. Yeah, it's amazing. It was a blast. That's three great courses we've had in a row. That was the Florida one, the Oklahoma one, and now at Full Spectrum Wear with Graham's Place. Navy SEAL Graham, Rich. Then we had Oklahoma with Iron Galley, and Eddie Ranji's now at the compound again. So yeah, it was great. Everybody had a blast. It was just so bleeping hot, but that's awesome. If you aren't sucking, all you people out there, especially veterans, know if it ain't raining, you ain't training, and if it ain't sucking balls ass hot, you ain't training. And it was wonderful. And we had we get women out there too, and they were kicking ass. I just love it because everybody, it's one place where they just all come together. It's just everybody's just having a good time, and And I had a good time, and I shot like 800 rounds. I was out there. I get right up there with them and shoot with them and do the drills with them, and it's fun for me, and it makes me. You can tell I'm getting excited talking about it because I
No,
had a
so
blast. I had a wonderful time.
I know that is like you at your natural habitat. That's what you love doing. And
Yeah.
hopefully I'll come out. You know, it's funny. I had to edit the last show because you said June, but I will be there
Oh, it's
in
July.
July when you
Yeah,
hit
damn
Maine.
it.
I'm going to do my
Yeah.
best to be there. No, it's fine. I just edited it so people
Oh,
didn't even
thank you.
hear that.
Well,
But
it's
yeah, I'll be there.
July. Be it July in Bangor, Maine. We'll be there, and it's gonna go because we'll get more than 8. We got 8 people. When it's getting close to 8, if it's 10, I'm going. If it's less than 10 and it's that far of a trip, then we got to push it because yeah, it is. As much as I love training, it also,
No,
family.
it's
I
fun.
got to make money. Yeah.
Yeah, so Chris, and I should say, I always have to put the www for some reason with your site. So www.christantoperanto.net. You can go right to the Battleline Tactical, and you could sign up right now, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, anytime. And we have some more classes coming up this year that you can sign up for in Texas. We'll redo the one in Vegas. We may push the one in Vegas till next year, but
Vegas is
Texas,
going to be weird, yeah.
yeah, it's because the city's still just ridiculous. I don't want to mess with that. But yeah, Fort Worth, the Bangor main one, and then we're going to reschedule the one that we're having in Eaton, Tennessee, which is outside of Nashville at Tread Proof Training, which is another tremendous facility, tremendous course. Those are so much fun with Doc Maurer out there. It's amazing.
Awesome. And then I guess in a piece of unfortunate Memorial Day news, but not so unfortunate because of what the outcome looks like. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, who I've met several times before. I think you have too, right?
Colonel West, yeah,
Yeah.
I always make fun of how cool is he. I always tell him, and I think he got the joke. I said, "You look like Kid from Kid and Play."
Oh,
His
it's a
hair.
flat top, yeah. So I mean, I think you saw my Instagram. You heard the news though over the weekend, right?
Yeah, honestly, I saw your Instagram. I had no idea. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't even
So
know the seriousness of it.
he was in a pretty bad motorcycle accident. However, he was just released from the hospital as we're recording this. He did put a video up. Some very noticeable injuries. I know there's some concussion and even just his hearing him speak in the video. You could tell he's a little bit disoriented and a little bit slower than usual. So we're definitely hoping for a full recovery. But the fact that he's out of the hospital, motorcycle accident, a lot of the time could be much worse than that. Great guy. I could tell you my story with Lieutenant Colonel Alan West when he was over at Sirius XM was I don't know if you know the story of
No, tell it.
no, of
Tell it,
Michael
man.
Behenna. Do you know about Michael Behenna, who was
No,
stationed? Yeah, so he
no.
was imprisoned for basically his side of the story is that he captured a terrorist, who had killed several service members, and he was told to let this guy go. Decided to interrogate him. His side of the story is that a rock was thrown at him, and in self-defense, he shot this guy. Now, regardless of what the circumstances are, I just know from talking to guys like you, talking to other guys who've been in combat, these are split-second decisions a lot of the time. And sometimes you might be able to look back and say, I could have done this differently. But I would like to give him the benefit of the doubt, of course. And he was put in military prison for several years, pardoned more recently by President Trump. I got the opportunity to interview him and his mother. But while this was all going on, I heard his story on Michael Savage's show, who's one of those guys I still regularly listen to. And it was something I was very passionate about. So I donated to the Behenna family for his defense. And I regularly wore the wristband with, First Lieutenant Michael Behenna. And it was actually just like a motivating thing for me because whenever I was in like a shit place in my life, I was like, things could be far worse. You could be in a military prison for doing what you thought was the right thing to do at the time. And so I regularly wore that. And when Lieutenant Colonel Alan West was in studio, I was walking with him, just showing him the exit to the to Sirius XM to go to the street. And he looked at my wrist and he said, "Hey man, nice wristband." And he lowered the his shirt around his wrists, and he was wearing the same one. And I thought that was really cool because I know he's a guy who has just always stood up for guys who are, at least in his mind, wrongfully imprisoned or guys accused of war crimes who he feels should be let free. And a guy who truly lives what he says and a guy who honorably served.
don't know about the. I didn't really get into the Bahena stuff, so I don't know a whole bunch about that. Even though guys probably should, but no. For me with Colonel West, he was always nice, respectful to myself and to when I was. And this is I met him when we and Oz and Tig were still doing some stuff together, and he was always great to Oz and Tig as well. So yeah, politics. I don't get into his politics anymore just because obviously you guys listen to the show. I don't get into it at all because it's not necessary. I don't think it's something that helps the country out. But as far as Colonel West goes, he's always been eloquent. He is an eloquent speaker.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is. He's always well versed. He served honorably. And I would say if I saw him, it'd be what's up, Colonel, and give him a high five, and then I'd touch his flat top, and he'd be cool like that. I mean, that's the kind of guy that's cool. It's the guy that I don't think I mean, maybe I'm wrong. It's been quite.
No,
a few years,
I
but
fully
think
agree, because I could tell you when you're saying he doesn't take himself seriously. The picture that I posted, if you guys go to Battleline Podcast on Instagram, I'm wearing a GI Joe shirt, and I remember I made a joke to him. I was like, yeah, I'm wearing a GI Joe shirt, but taking a picture with the real life GI Joe, and he was laughing about it. So I don't think he's a guy who takes himself too seriously.
Yeah, and that's cool. That's the kind of that's an enlisted man's officer, but I never served with him, so hopefully that's what I see him out of the service is how he was when he was in, because that's the kind of guy as an enlisted man. And I was enlisted, and then I got dumb and I became an officer. I don't know what I was thinking, but when you're an enlisted guy, that's the kind of commander or platoon leader or company commander or battalion commander you want. You want that kind of officer that is not full and pompous and it just doesn't care and just doesn't care, and he takes care of his except for his troops. That's what he cares about, making sure they're trained properly, fed properly, they have enough equipment and ammunition, and he makes sure they all come home. And that's awesome.
Yeah, and we're hoping that he has a good recovery, and as soon as he's able to gather his thoughts and be in the right mind state, we'd definitely love to have him on, because a motorcycle accident, that's some serious shit.
Yeah, bro. Colonel West, it's time. Put the motorcycle away, brother. It's time. Get inside a vehicle and put that.
Well, he was actually doing one of those rallies kind of similar to what your brother Tig did. That's where it was.
Is that what happened? Oh,
yep,
man.
Yep.
Well, that's honestly, if you're going to get in a wreck, that's a blessing because you got everybody around you take care of you, man. I don't know much about the story, but but again, Alan, and I'm kidding, Colonel West, keep riding. I know that's therapeutic for a lot of veterans to be on that bike and out in the open road, bro. But yeah, get better, and yeah, I'd love to have him on the show too, and talk about him, and he would be just like the rest of the old crusty veterans that we've had, and I say that with so much smile and love, guys. Like Smokey, man, the crusty veteran, the old dude that still could whoop your ass, man.
I think he's younger than him. The only look, I don't think he's quite Jim West's age, because Jim is like, he doesn't look it. He's like 65.
Are you kidding me? I didn't know
Jim West. I think he said it on the show with us.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
I was
Alan
listening
West.
to
Alan West is 59. He looks younger.
He's still old as fuck. No. Again, I could say that on the show, and he would laugh, and that's the kind of guy that I know when I've met and talked with Alan West, and again, it's one of those things where that's the kind of person you want to have as either even an acquaintance or an associate or a friend. It's somebody that you don't have to see for 10 years and you talk to all the time, and then see him walking around like, hey, what's up, brother? And you can hit it off and talk for 3 minutes unabated and about anything. And then, all right, I'll see you again in 10 years, and you're walking separate ways. That to me, that's the cool guy. That's what I think Colonel West is, as far as our relationship goes. And that to me says a lot about his character, which in a good way, very good way.
Yeah, I agree. One other thing I wanted to get to, we got this, I don't usually read the reviews that we get on Apple Podcasts, because a lot of them are short. A lot of them are just like, hey, love the show. And it really helps us out when you guys leave reviews. But this was a particular good one. It's from, hopefully I'm saying the name right, Kelly Keeney. That's the name on here. But they wrote, always enjoy the podcast. And it's a 5-star review on there. Always great conversation. I've listened to the Battleline podcast from the beginning, but never left a rating or review, and I felt it was time. You guys always have guests on that mesh with both of you and make me as a listener feel like I am on the back deck hanging out and having a beer with the boys. No derogatory term there calling you boys. You are definitely men.
No, call me. I like that. I like that, man.
But as a retired law enforcement officer, I miss the hanging out and the BS sessions with my boys after work. Granted, we never talked about the hard stuff like depression and what it takes to get on top of that. And I really appreciate how you both support military guys in this subject. And I feel as cops, we have similarities in what we have to deal with as far as depression goes. The support from Chris about depression is heartfelt. And when the guests are willing to talk about it also, it's great. It's been the hidden shame or taboo subject for so long in our worlds that I feel society is changing for the better in this respect and being more supportive of us who fight this demon every day. On the flip side, your conversations are not always about the heavy and are blended with things that are all interesting, interested in, like what guns you have built or up and coming training or just these musician interviews. Listening to the podcast makes me feel still connected to people with the same or similar likes, ideals, ethics, experiences, fuck ups, and love of God and country. The podcast just feels good, like hanging out with good friends. Keep on bringing the podcast. I look forward to Sunday night. I'm an insomniac, so really it's early Monday morning. Sometimes I listen to the whole 4 hours in one night, I guess when we do two shows, if you had a midweek podcast. Just wanted to thank you again, Chris and Ian, for bringing us some quality listening material. Very cool.
That is cool. There's a story that goes along with that. Actually at the Creek course, at the Battleline course we had in Chicago, an officer came up to me that was coming through the course, and he says, "Man, I love that Jimmy Allen interview." I'm like, well,
nice.
What'd you love about it? He goes, "Well, I love that the dude has so much integrity that he could be out on the road traveling and getting in all those vices, getting all those bad things, the women and the women, the drugs, the alcohol, and he said he's not going to do it." That to me goes, that is the toughest son of a bitch right there. And I agree. I'm like, that is so cool. That's what you got out of the. He goes, yeah. He goes, because I'm an alcoholic and I've been sober for. He says, I don't know how many years he was sober for. He wants to say, I've been sober for like 4 or 5 years. And listening to him, he said, that just made my decision to be sober perfect, because this guy has all the opportunity to be out there and live what people think are fantasies and believe. Guys, I'm telling you, they're not. It's awful. It's that road. But it's hard to not pull away from the devil. It's like the devil's pulling you on the road. And he says, man, Jimmy said, no, not today, Satan. And he's not doing it. And he's just staying at home and he's doing the right thing. Because that meant the world to me. And I was like, wow, that's great. And when I thought about it, like, that is cool, because he's right. How hard is it to tell the devil, no, I'm not going on the road to do all these things that might make me feel good in the immediate and then ruin my life. I'm staying home. And I understand that. That is so hard to do. And so, yeah, Jimmy Allen, if you're out there, your interview really has helped an alcoholic who is a recovering alcoholic, or I don't know how you say it. If they've been clean and sober for how many years, is that recovering, or is that just somebody that's kicked it? I don't know.
I think they always say recovering, I believe, because it's like that everyday fight, because you could 10 years down the road, pick it up again. So, that's cool that you get to meet the guys who have listened to the podcast, because I haven't, and I want to go out to a course and meet those people. And I had someone recently, actually in the past few days, say they thought the Dave Silvera episode was the best we've ever done. So I think people are gravitating towards different things. And that's why I'm excited to have Debbie Rochon on, because we've never had anyone in the acting realm on, and she's just great. So,
well, that's what we need to have. We need to divvy. My Ranger buddy Jeff Lisenby out there, who I served in Iraq with, and we're conscious. He goes, yeah, man. He goes, I love the episodes because it's not the typical vet bro stuff. You guys have everything on. I go, and I was picking his brain. I was his team leader overseas. He was on my team, and I trust his opinion. I said, hey, dude, well, what do you think? Do we need more vet bros? Do we need more military? He goes, no. He goes, dude, keep it as it is, because that's what's so cool about it. It says you just never know what's going to come on, and I get to hear different asses. Yeah, like me. I'm kidding. Different people all over from all different genres. So, dude, that really, and I thought that, but I wanted to make sure. You always got to get that reaffirmation. You got to get that AAR from somebody, so you know if you're doing the right thing, or if you need to adjust fire and move a different direction. But brother, I think we're on the right track, and it feels right. So keep doing this way we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I purposely did it for people wondering because, having someone like Debbie Rochon on, who we're about to have on, she has her own fan base, and
Yeah.
they probably wouldn't discover the podcast if she isn't on it. So, military guys, there is a certain base there, but I want people who watch horror movies to check us out, people who listen to metal, people who, if we have Pablo Schreiber on, people who have seen his other movies. So, yeah, I want to, have a big net. It kind of goes back to what I said during the Dave Silvera, how no one gets in a band to play in front of this small crowd of people.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think of starting a podcast that it's a few hundred people listening. I want a few 100,000 people listening.
I agree. And for me, it's I kind of know what questions to ask or what goes on in a veteran's mind. So because I'd like to have people like Debbie, just to hear, because I don't know any of that world, and I as much as I hate to admit it, I have to say when Oprah brought her show out and there was this question that was asked her. I don't remember where I saw it, but it was, where do you get your questions from? Where do you ask it? She goes, I'm just asking stuff that I want to know. That's all I'm doing. I was like, I just want to know. Tell me. I mean, I don't care if it interests the listeners out there. I want to know this. So, and generally it works out that it does interest the people that are listening too. But that's why it's awesome having Debbie on. I just want to hear it. I want you guys to chat, even though I always say that, and I'll jump in always, because that's just me. I'm a motor mouth. I want to hear you guys, because this is, brother, I grew up on the Toxic Avenger and stuff like that. Oh my gosh.
Dude, well, I'm going to add her to the call, but we could talk about Lloyd Kaufman, who created all that, and he is one of the coolest people I know. Lloyd is the man, and she introduced me to Lloyd, and I'm going to add her to the call right now. We have great stuff to talk about, so let's do this.
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing good. I haven't spoken to you in quite a while. It's been a very long time.
I know, too long.
Hey, Debbie, I'm gonna put the video on so you know I'm here. I'm here, but whenever I do the video and we have three of us on, my screen flickers and we pause. So just so you know that you're not talking to a bot or something, it is actually me. But then I got to switch my video off, because if I don't, I think it's because I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. The connection sucks. So just to have you idea, I know you want to see my pretty face all triple chinned up right now.
Well, Debbie's camera's not on, and Debbie is far better looking than both of us. So.
Oh yeah, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, ma'am. Can I call you ma'am, or should I say Debbie? I'm gonna go military on you. Should I say ma'am, or should I say Debbie? What do you want me to say? Or hey you?
Hey yo.
Hey yo. Okay. All right, hey yo.
So I'll give.
Thanks for coming on, Debbie.
Yeah, no. For the audience, I just want to let people know who Debbie is. A lot of this audience is going to know, because I know your fan base is going to check it out. But actress, filmmaker, scream queen, of course, the voice of Battleline Podcast, doing the intro and the outro. Yeah, the intro and the outro. And really, I mean, for those who want to get into kind of my history with Debbie, the first ever radio gig I got out of college was 2006, doing Fangoria Radio with Debbie, with Dee Snider. And it's like, I look back, and although there were times of like small amounts of drama within the company or something, overall, it was such a great experience. Like, right?
I'm cutting you guys off. Right, I want to hear about the drama. Nope, stop right there. You laughed. That was too high of a laugh. Something happened. I got to hear about this drama right now.
Okay. I'm willing. Okay, now Igor, which is what we called him on the show, Igor.
Oh my
drama
God.
do you refer? Because there might have been a few. So which one were you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there were so many. I remember. I feel like I don't want to say names. Like a guy.
Okay, you don't have to. Just
okay. So this happened to Tonto and I once, but because Chris is like such a calm guy, you were able to deal with it okay. There was an engineer when I was in studio prior to all this COVID shit that she's like, wait, was I supposed to record all that? Because I didn't record anything. So I remember on our show, you interviewed Betsy McCoy, Jason's mom in the Friday the 13th series, and a certain guy on staff was like, Mike, none of that recorded. And literally a fist fight almost broke out. I remember that.
Yes, yeah. That was pretty bad, pretty bad. The lucky thing was that she lived in New York City, so she can come back. But it was no, Mike would have none of that shit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Mike was really hardcore. He was good.
He definitely was, and I remember it was like you, and I do remember her coming back.
Betsy
She's no
Palmer.
longer with us.
Betsy Palmer.
Why am I saying who's Betsy McCoy? Why am
I
I think she's someone in politics. Yeah, Betsy Palmer.
Yeah,
I
yeah. You guys
I
did
apologize. Betsy Palmer, who's no longer with us.
right.
But you know, at the time you had this great interview, and I do remember you and Dee trying to like recreate jokes. And once you've had the interview, you can't really recreate it.
You can't.
Oh my gosh.
No.
That's Debbie, you know what, Fangoria, because we were just talking about this. I grew up, and I will get into it. When I first started watching, like, I watched horror movies, you know, the just the standard, the Halloweens, the Friday 13th. Grew up on those, and then I saw Toxic Avenger, and I'm like, my God, this is the coolest thing. I know, and that's kind of, am I right? That's kind of the genre you're in. And Fangoria Radio was, I didn't know that was your voice. I had no clue. I see this is cool because this is all new to me. Everything here is so new. And talking to somebody that's actually in it. And he says, Ian said you knew Lloyd Kaufman, and I know you've done some of the, it wasn't Toxic Avenger, but didn't you do some of the where it was what was it called Troll City or Trollos? Yeah, help me out with it.
Trauma.
That's it.
And it's so funny. I have to tell you, I have done a few movies with Lloyd Kaufman. The first one was Romeo and Juliet in 1995.
I saw that. Oh, that was awesome.
Okay, I was the lesbian cook / nurse, whatever you want to call her, the handmaid. I don't know. And then Terra Firma. I was in Citizen Toxie, which was part 4. And then I've had like sort of like 1 line, 2 lines in the movies in between, and then Shakespeare Shitstorm, which we did about a year and a half ago. I actually have a role again. So, you know, it's been through my whole career, but that's just like one part of it. It's a big part in the sense of the fan base for Trump is insane.
Well,
I mean,
that's
crazy.
You have no idea how many veterans actually dig that kind of stuff. The trauma, especially the first Toxic Avenger, just because it was so weird, and we still watch that downrange. When we're downrange, you throw in talk. But I want to know what kind of guy. Just with my little bit in the movie, just a teeny bit, just being on set when Michael Bay did the 13 Hours and being around that kind of director. What was it like being around a guy like Lloyd Kaufman, though? Where does his mind come from? How do you think up of this kind of stuff? What is that like?
It's like I've always said, and I've said to him, so I'm not talking out of school. I've said to him and everybody else, it is like knowing someone who is both extremes. I don't want to say bipolar because in today's day and age, people get all offended and shit, right?
No shit.
But you know what I'm talking about? Like he is both the crazy guy. Like he goes absolutely ape shit nuts, and he's the really calm and collected guy. So he kind of swings back and forth. But then again, I have to double back and say, okay, after all these years and after making a movie myself, I can understand he's hired all these people to work for free. And there are a lot of kids at a film school and stuff. So they don't necessarily know fully what they're doing. So in the moment, he gets really upset and mad because it's costing money.
Sure.
But
okay.
Looking back on the other side of it, it's like, yeah, they're maybe not performing because they don't know how yet. So that's the double edge of the sword, right? So you get the people for free and young, but at the same time with no learning curve except for Lloyd Kaufman, who's like, you know, screaming at you in the middle of, you know, whatever scene or something like that. And then when everything goes action, everybody's got to just be, you know, all funny and happy and all that kind of stuff. So, but it's amazing. I mean, he's been like this constant in my life since I met him in 92. And, you know, he just, you know, it's just been one of those relationships that is like, you know, 80% of the time up And we've had a couple of times in our lives where we go out of touch because he's pissed me off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just made me mad about something, and I take responsibility for that too. He's an amazing guy. That's real bottom line. But yeah, I mean, like with every relationship that goes on for that long, it's gonna go up and down, and
course.
so but that's like a good friend. I have to interject though and just ask you while I have you, because I've been dying to know. I've been thinking about this.
Okay, what?
And I hope you don't mind the diversion here, guys. Please bear with me.
No, that's
Are
what
you
we
kidding me?
do.
Are you kidding me? We're all over the place. You're gonna be like, what the hell just happened on that interview? I don't even know what they were trying to get out of me here. Go ahead.
So, okay, I love war movies. So I want to know from you guys, favorite war movie in two categories. One, most realistic, and two, your favorite, even if it doesn't really play as it was.
This is all Chris, because Chris, I mean, most realistic, how the hell would I know? While Chris was, in combat, I was with you and Mike Costell doing Fangoria Radio.
Well, that's, I'm going to be partial because it was part of my life was 13 hours because I was there. That was me. That was a guy running around in shorts, getting in firefights with a Mickey Mouse shirt on. I mean, that was me. And to me, 13 hours is the most realistic. And believe me, I know Dale Sizemore and David Floyd and Colonel McKnight, Danny McKnight. We should get him on the show too. From Black Hawk Down, I was a Ranger. Those guys were third bat. I was second bat. Those guys are buddies of mine. That was actually Sergeant Strucker, the man, the myth, the legend. He put me through Ranger Indoc training when I first became a Ranger. So Black Hawk Down is very accurate, as far relatively speaking with the movies. But it simulates, and you get the experience of war. Same with Lone Survivor. We were soldiers. Same thing. Hal Moore, Colonel Moore, is still an iconic legend within the military Army. He is the epitome of what an officer should be. But what they were missing, and that's why, believe me, I was completely caught off guard because I didn't think Michael Bay making come on, what's going to Optimus Prime jumping out of the damn plane? Is that what's going to happen but the thing is that what he got, and this is what it is in combat. This is what it's like. You get all these other war movies, or what it is, Black Hawk Down, Lone Survivor, American Sniper, We Were Soldiers, and it's very gritty. And it is, believe me, combat is gritty. It is. There's death, and I saw my buddies get blown up. But it's extremely colorful because your senses you're so heightened. Your senses, it's like, I equate it to a racehorse. Think of you're a racehorse. You're just flying, but you got those blinders on. And then when war happens, combat happens, those blinders come off and everything pops. The colors pops, the sound. I mean, it's just, and that's why we have a hard time coming home, because when you're able to experience that kind of sensory overload and you can handle it, which it takes a lot of years or training to do. It does. You're able to handle that. And you can't, it's hard to live with the volume turned down for everything else, because you're like, oh my gosh, this volume is turned up to 80 and it's never going to be turned up to that decibel again unless I keep going over, which is why I kept going over for 10 years until I was like, okay, I've had enough of the volume. It's blowing out my ears. I need to turn the volume back down. But that being said, that's why if you watch 13 hours, the scene that epitomizes that is when you see Ansar al-Sharia and Al-Qaeda in the Maghreb, when they're taking over the consulate and they're running across the front lawn of that U.S. consulate. And the U.S. consulate was beautiful in Libya. It was like a resort. They did. And you see how green that grass is. When I see that scene, it's like, that's war. Oh my gosh, look how deep green because when I came over the wall to get in on that compound, to get in the fight, and I saw that grass, that's what it looked like. It was like, wow, holy crap, look how green that grass. I've never seen a green as grass ever in my life. And of course I had, but it's because of senses. Your senses are heightened, and it's amazing. And the fire, just how orange it is. And even at night, because they use diesel smoke to start the fires, you could see that black smoke against the stars going. And that's where I think 13 hours is as far as accuracy. And then the camaraderie between the guys, it's that jackassery when you're talking about it. It's that goofy. It's that funny. It's that play, just making fun of each other.
I would imagine you would have to, because you have to counter all that with something.
Oh, laughter, and when
Yeah.
I do my speeches, laughter is the best medicine, and that is the God honest truth. And that's why when you do see my character, the guy that played me in the movie, and we're still friends, I love him to death, Pablo Schreiber, who played me in the movie, he nailed that character. He nailed. I always say he nailed me, and that doesn't sound good when I say he nailed me. But and we laugh about that all the time. Like, yeah, I nailed you, Tano. Yeah, Pablo, thanks, you motherfucker. All right, but it's spot on because, and he did. But what what was cool, and this is why I have utmost respect for actors. I didn't at the time. You're with military. Fuck you, fuck Hollywood. Eat shit. I don't believe. When I got around Pablo and John Krasinski and Dominic and all those guys, and I saw how serious they took their craft, especially Pablo. I mean, as soon as he got picked, we connected on Twitter that day that he was played to play me, and we got to know each other and how much time he took just to get to know me so he could represent me correctly with respect, and then how much seriousness he took to learn how to use the weapon systems. You can throw something off on a weapon just by the placement of your hand on a weapon, and a veteran will see that in a movie and be like, okay, this is shit, I'm out. Just one thing.
Yeah.
And they got it. Just us, and the minute details, and how Michael Bay got the minute details down, just so when you watch it, it's like, yep, that's right. And how many veterans have come up to me and said, you guys did awesome making sure that the tactics were right, because that's what sold it. And the lights and the under night vision, it looks just like that. It just the everywhere, sensory overload. So I would have to say 13 hours in that for that reason, and not just because I was in it, but because of that's what war really looks like. It's not dirty and gritty. Even if you're in Iraq or Afghanistan or Pakistan or Yemen or Libya, all these countries I worked in, yeah, it's dirty, but when war starts, it's not dirty. It's just whoa, this is freaking amazing. This is crazy. And and as far as war movies that aren't accurate, I would have to say none. I can't watch a war movie that's not well, I take it back. I just watched it last night. The Dirty Dozen. Still one of my favorite classic movies from all time. I love watching Lee Marvin. I love it. I love watching Jim Brown and I love watching Telly Savalas and Cray. Oh, it's still that. And but you know what? It could be accurate too. That was World War II. Who knows?
Okay,
Yeah.
so what I've read, seeing I don't know military people in person, is that they're not big fans of the Hurt Locker.
Okay, yeah, I get you on that. Okay, that is true. The reason being, not what the Hurt Locker got, and it did get accurate. It got accurate the need to go back overseas. Even if you have a 1-year-old, been there. I had a 1-year-old and I left. I was like, I love you, but I love you, son. He's 15 now, and I was in Iraq, came back for 3 months. Then he was born, and I loved him, and I was home for my firstborn. I love him, and there was that itch just to get back to my buddies in Iraq, back to the job, back to Baghdad. Mm-hmm. This is 2004, and 2 weeks later I left. I'm like, I'm out, and I was gone again for another 8 months. That aspect of you returning home or going in the grocery store and looking and going, cereal, what the hell is Cheerio? What, I don't, who gives a shit? Here, take some grape nuts. I don't care. The worst cereal in the world, but I don't give a shit. I'll break your teeth on it. I don't care. And cleaning the gutters and all the menial stuff. When you want to go back, that got right. And then also the where you couldn't save the Iraqi. I've been there. A little girl. I couldn't save her. And that hurt. That it's not just all we're insensitive, we're out there murder. No, it's not like that at all. You actually get to know and love and care about the people you're with, and when you can't save one of them, it hurts just as bad as if you lost a brother. But what was off and what hurts them is I tell you, like I said, the tactics. One little thing can get wrong, and it's going to throw the movie off. Mm-hmm. EOD guys, they're not snipers. They're not going to be out there shooting a 50 cal machine gun, getting in a firefight. The ordnance, it's not going to happen. Not the contractors yet that they repped. Nah, she embellished that. And he was a good actor. Ray Fiennes was where they met the military. No, it's not like that. We weren't out there because I was a contractor at that time. I wish we were out there just running and snatching high value targets. No, that wasn't accurate either. So, but it's not the person. It's not the actual demeanor. It's not what because that was accurate. That was spot on. The feelings, the emotions, that's right. It's the tactics. They screwed up the tactics. Like, gosh, that's what it is. Because it's a wonderful movie until you start seeing EOD guys, which is what he played, doing things that he shouldn't do. And also, this is a Ranger thing. He was supposed to be a former Ranger, so he had a combat scroll on his right arm. If he was an E6 and had a combat scroll on his right arm, he should have had a Ranger tab on his left arm because he would have been a senior guy at Ranger Battalion. Nobody's an E6 with a combat scroll and doesn't have a Ranger tab on the other. You'd be thrown out of battalion. See, people don't. But for me, those little things is what throw it off.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
no, it's understandable. You know what I was going to ask? Since Chris was mentioning working with Michael Bay, I'm thinking back when we did Fangoria Radio. You got to interview so many awesome people. I mean, it was Quentin Tarantino was on the show, Samuel L. Jackson. I know that the Quentin Tarantino was just with Tony Timpone because I remember that. But Michael Bay, when we talked about like how over the top he was, I remember between you and D was like an ongoing joke. But I don't think you ever got a chance to interview him, right?
No, we didn't. No, I don't know why. Why would that be?
We talked about him all. Well, you guys talked about him all the time. You know what interview I always think of, and I would love to reflect on all these years later. I will always remember when you and Tony interviewed Michael Madsen. And
oh my gosh!
Here's the thing, Michael Madsen. I don't know, and I would love to hear your opinion on this. I don't know if it was shtick or if he was really that big of a dick because he was.
I think he was that big of a dick, but in a good sense. Like, in other words, when you get Michael Madsen, you get Michael Madsen. There's only, he's the type of guy that what you see, you think it's a different guy off camera, but it's that guy. Like, he's that guy in every interview. He was eating spaghetti with ranch sauce. Yes. And he said he was just like eating, and he had a new book that came out, and that's why he was on the show, Photographs or something like that.
Wow.
And I think Tony said to him, "Hey, Michael, can you?" I'm doing a bad impersonation.
You sound exactly like him. You did perfect.
Just read something from the book, and he goes, that's not going to happen. Right?
And yes, I remember. And I remember you were trying to make this interview go. Dee Snider was not there. So it was you and Tony Timpone, editor-in-chief of Fangoria at the time. And, you were asking some great questions. And I still remember because we isolated the sound clip of him going, it's 10 o'clock at night on a Friday. I'm sitting here eating spaghetti. Well, when are you going to ask me some interesting questions? And I was thinking if it was D, he would have fucking hung up on him. And you probably would have too, but you were like, you know what? It's Fangoria Radio. It's for the company. And you just went with it.
I just went with it. And it was, I got to tell you something. At the time, it was so painful. It was so painful. But think of this. Afterwards, once I got over the trauma that night, I realized we had some really good sound clips.
We did.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you think forward and you're like, okay, we did the battle, so to speak, but and we lost, but we won some really good clips to use forever, just like we did with Thomas Jane.
Yes, yeah, exactly. We're on the bleeding cutting edge. Yes. Thing he said. Who was I mean, in all your years, even if it's not Fangoria Radio because you did radio prior, who was like your favorite interview that you got to have?
That really is tough because there's so many amazing. I think one of the funniest ones, I don't know if it's the best interview, but when you guys had on for my birthday, Sean Patrick Flannery, and he was put on an English accent. And he was making like years ago, we met up in some punk rock bathroom and had sex. And my mom was like, reeling, like, could it be? I mean, I don't think so, but and then he dropped the accent. And it was like, because we would always, whenever we would have him on, we would like put up the picture of him, the cover of Playgirl, right? We'd like sort of like bug him and have fun with him. But when he did that on my birthday, I had no idea it was him. So that's one moment I'll always remember.
Hey, was that the same birthday that producer Mike Costell got you the cake with the giant chocolate cock on top?
Yes, 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 it was. And then for Dee's birthday, we had the payas, the Hasidic payas, blonde for Dee, and brunette for me, and all that. No, yeah, I got the cock, and I got Sean Patrick Flannery. What more do I need? I mean,
Oh my! This is a great show. Pablo nailed me, and Debbie got the cock. How about that? There you go. Awesome.
Hey, life, life is amazing. Now there was so many good memories, though, right, Igor?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of funny because I look back, and at the time, I just didn't realize how great of an opportunity that it was. And the first couple of years, probably or maybe the first year, me and Mike Costell, the producer, clashed a little bit, and then I grew to really respect him, and I actually think how hard he was on me on certain things really helped me evolve, as time went by, and just the amount of guests we had. I mean, I look back on that show. We had Diamond Dallas Page, we had Mick Foley, and when Quentin Tarantino was in studio with Tony Timpone, it made me realize like what an impact he had and Fangoria had just on the genre, because I didn't know that Quentin Tarantino, as a younger kid working at Blockbuster, would go to conventions and give Tony Timpone a script and say, what do you think of this? Like, so when he came to Sirius, one of the interviews that he was like, I have to have is Tony Timpone. And it just made me really respect him and what he does, and both of what you guys did as well.
But and I can't underscore that enough, because like going to all the pain that Chris has seen and gone through in his life, and I'm not comparing this, I can compare another part of my life to living on the edge and things being vibrant, which was living on the street as a kid. But we'll get to that later, the book. But I will say, as far as the show goes, like a lot of people have podcasts now, but what we did was different in the sense that we had Mike Costell, who was a hard ass on all of us, but it's like having like someone above you in the military that you grow to love, because he has your back, you're learning. And if he was just yesing you or just was phoning in his job and he wasn't so dedicated, at the end of the day, the person's like either forgotten or you don't have as much respect. But boy, do we have respect for him, because he worked his fucking ass off. He did.
Your guys is cutting your teeth, and Debbie, listening to you, especially the Lloyd Kaufman part 2, where the young guys coming in and there's that double-edged sword, but you got to push them, but they don't really know what the hell they're doing, but you're going to scream at them anyway. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like basic training. It's the similarities. And I think we're so different. Oh, our jobs are. No, it really is. It's trial by fire. You get the shit done and you figure it out, or guess what? You're out. Bye. And I'm not going to be nice about it, but then I'm going to be nice about it just to fuck with your head a little bit. I'm going to say, I'm going to be friends with you just to see if I can get you, and then I'm going to blow you up and see how you handle it and see how you deal with it. And we do that and when I say blow, I mean like yell, and not blow you up. Literally. I got veterans out there. I know it, but because you have to see how you handle under pressure, and watching that that was in itself, being on set. Watching that, to me, I can see how you have to be able to handle pressure and stress, and learning on that stage there where you're intern. If you can't handle it there, how are you going to handle it if you want to go to the whatever level? And I don't know what the levels would be. I don't know. I said in military basic training, then you got an airborne, then ranger, and so forth. You got to handle it in different levels. But if you can't handle it at one stage, how are you going to handle it the next? And it sounds, when I'm listening to you and Ian talk, Igor, I love it. Igor, I love it.
It was a horror show. They had to have name that fit.
But it just sounds exactly similar. And you obviously you handled it well, and you dealt with it just I can tell by your laughing. You dealt with it with a laugh, but then if you had to get serious, oh yeah. But in the meantime, screw it, I got it. And you took it with a grain of salt, and that's awesome, because it sounds exactly like.
You have to, and I do want to say, I do have to jump in and say just how much I love Lloyd Kaufman, because I want to make it that super clear, because when I say up and down and all describe him on the set and stuff, I do say that with the same respect that you're speaking of when you're going through training.
Sure.
So everybody who, like, people go into, you know, working on his films in various levels, and they do a one-off, and then they're out, and they don't have anything good to say, versus the people who do 2 or 3, and then they'll always look back. They don't try to shun their trauma past. It's like a badge of honor, because if you can get through that, holy shit, you can get through anything, any shoot, because you have done it all. And so anyway, I just want to underscore that, because my love for Mr. Cobb.
As someone who's met him as well, like, he's a great guy, so creative, one of the funniest people I've ever met. And kind of to echo what you're saying, with my years that I got to work with you, I met so many people who wanted to do what you did and work in horror and be the next Scream Queen. And we had, I remember, a Scream Queen contest, and I was even on set with you for that short film Cottonmouth. And a lot of those women are no longer in the industry because they didn't have what it takes. And I think after maybe a year or 2 of grinding, they go, this isn't for me. And you're someone who at this point, what is it, Debbie, like 30 years you've been going strong?
And how many movies? 50? Was it 50 movies? Are we up, or even more than that?
250.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Up, down, upside, downside, the good, the bad, the ugly. Been through, I was blackballed in the early 90s by this guy, so I had to take, because I wouldn't sleep with him, and he was the editor. Trust me, it wasn't Fangoria, of some magazine, but he was in contact. There was no real internet then, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So I had to, like, I didn't get to work with the name, horror directors. I had to, because he would say, you hire her and no publicity in my magazine, none. So, most, not all, but most would say, okay, well, what do I care? Who's she, So then I would have to do stuff that may be more exploitive or maybe lower, more indie, but you have to, like, keep, like, swinging the bat and saying, F you, you're not going to do this to me. Even if I have to change up what I'm doing, I'll do it, because you're just not going to have that kind of an effect on me. You may have you may put a burp in the system here. You have to not have the trajectory that was maybe once possible, but you're not going to stop me. I'm just going to have to keep reinventing myself, and that's what you do. You just keep going.
You dealt with obstacles and adversity, and you found a way to get around it, through it, or over it. You did it.
Yeah.
Well, does Debbie fit in with the theme of the show that we always have, brother? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, 100%.
If you're going to be successful, you don't quit. You never fucking quit. You just keep driving.
You got to keep driving, man. And seriously, nowadays with this cancel culture, I swear to God, like, I don't know how they get the kind of, like, I guess it's just social media, but they get this kind of weird power. For a while there, I think they were more successful because it would get people actually fired and lose actual jobs and stuff, and they would feel successful in doing such. But the kind of nice thing about in the indie world is, like, well, who are you going to get to fire me, Lloyd Kaufman? Well, I don't think so. I've got to worry about Disney. But, with that being said, who knows, financially it would be a nice worry to have. But, I think more my relationship to, like, the theme of your show and survival, that kind of goes back more to the years, like, from age 11, 12 to 16, 17, when I lived on the street. So, which is what my book's about. But when you were talking about, like, the blinders were on and things were just so vivid, and it was really difficult to come out of living in crisis, because when you live in crisis 24/7 and then you're taken out, and it's like, I can't relate to this. That part I completely relate to. Like, how can you have a conversation about a tree when all this stuff is going on? That's really relate to.
I would like, and Ian, if you don't have anything, which you probably do, if you do, but eventually, before, because we still got a little bit, but before you go, I want to hear about your time if you can, before, as much as you want to give, without giving too much of the book, because I want people to go out and buy your book.
Yeah, no, well,
But
the book is in the
I,
process. So, right, the book is
but
just about to come out, Debbie.
Well, it's pushed back a little bit because of coronavirus and
sure.
all the stuff that goes with it. But it did definitely have a 2021 release. So I'm still hoping by the end, if it gets pushed to early 2022, that's possible. It's a boutique company in the UK. So we'll have to see what happens. But it's it'll be out maybe a variation of 6 months or something. But it's just really about, landing in the middle of a city, being homeless, sleeping, wherever you can, being like rejected by the culture if there were certain things that you didn't want to do or you wouldn't do, having to like steal or eat out of dumpsters, do all this kind of stuff, being held up for a week. There was this gay guy that I knew that, he was a hustler on the street, but the two of us were taken by these two guys, were held for like a week in this apartment just outside of the city, raped at time. I mean, it was really, but we got out. But it was like, that's why I'm relating so much to where you're coming from.
Sure. Yeah.
Is because, you get out, there's no time to think about it or talk about it. So the irony is all these years later, because we're talking about late 70s or kind of early 80s, but mostly the late 70s, long time ago. And, just writing about it now in this past year, the stuff it's brought up. So it must be the same, like, not to switch back again, but, this is all the same theme. I can imagine like being in the military and all those decades go by and you just ignore a lot of that stuff.
You do.
And then you're writing about it and it comes up like there's some days where in the middle of it, I just physically stand up, walk away from the computer. Too much overload. Like it just popped right back up like it was yesterday.
And stuff that maybe not really suppressed. You really you don't think about it until something will trigger it. That's what people when I talk, and I'm gonna lie, and I've had to talk to a therapist about my stuff. I've been to veterans out, like, hey man, I'm having issues right now. And you really don't. What triggers it? And I don't have the nightmares. I don't have anything like that. So that, like the movies. Oh, I'm having night sweats. It's during the day. I'll smell something, and that smell will trigger that thought, and then I'll just fade out. And I'll go wherever. My daughter, when she's with me, sometimes that'll happen, and she'll go, Daddy, you're thinking about something, aren't you? Because she'll see me start to talk and mumble, and it's those things that bring back. And the writing for me, it was therapeutic. It was cathartic to write. When I do my public speaking, it is hard, but it is very cathartic to do it. I don't know if you're getting the same thing, because a lot of those things that suppressed, I do need to get them out. I do need to at least think about them and then accept what happened and then move on. And it's going to take years and years, which is fine. That was the road I chose. But is that the same thing that you felt when you were writing the book, or when you have those thoughts, when you had to get up and walk away? Did you just try to forget about them again, or was it like me? It's an acceptance. It's okay. This is what happened. Embrace it. I got to. That's what I thought. I said, man, I got to experience that. Who gets to experience this in their life? I don't have to worry about it when I'm 80 and be like, man, I wish I would have lived. I can, when I'm 80, hopefully if I make it till I'm 80 or whatever, I can sit on my porch and go, you know what? Fuck, I had a lot of good things happen in my life, experiences, and they weren't always good, but they were experiences. I just want, if that kind of the same thing you're feeling right now, or that you felt, and that's why as you're doing the book.
Right. Well, the what comes up for me, and I don't know if it's different, but this is what comes up for me as a female. Okay, I don't know why, but I am like, so I've lived my life, and even the characters I play now, like for many decades now, I've always been like the serial killer, right? I've been the killer.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of approach life. Is like so not victim, like it's so not victim.
Awesome.
And really hard for me to even say out loud and accept and just put into words, even something like, oh, I was raped for a week. To own that, I'm really uncomfortable owning that. Like, you know what I mean? That's hard for me to say out loud still.
You're doing, but by saying it, I can almost guarantee you, people, there's going to be some women out there listening, and men even like myself, going, holy crap, just by you saying that, how hard is that to do? Oh my, but you're doing it. You've just helped. I guarantee you've just helped at least a handful of people right there by what you just said. And that's strength. I don't think you realize how much strength that is by you just saying that, because you're having to remember it. And I'm sorry we brought it up, but I'm glad you're talking about it.
No, I mean, that's what makes the show good, man. I think is getting deep. It's what we do differently than all these other shows that, just get into shallow topics and politics, and I like that we avoid
politics.
that.
Yeah,
Like,
fuck politics.
Hey, buy my new DVD. It's on my website.
Well, no, I didn't mean to break it up, but can you keep going a little bit too? Because this helps me too. It's like, it really does. Me listening to you, it does always puts things in perspective, because I can't relate to something like that, and I know that's got to be traumatic as hell.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
I would like, because you're helping me just by you talking.
It is hard, because I think it's exactly what you said, and then what comes up for me, which is, okay, well, I've got to actually say out loud and write down and own the fact, okay, yeah, I did steal. What am I, a thief? Yeah. Say it, own it.
Own it.
But I was 13, I had to eat, I have all these reasons, but just to actually have the fear of writing it down, and then what are people going to think, that process, I know what I am, I don't necessarily think about it, but to own it enough to say it and write it down, and it's, I don't know why, but it's harder than if someone's never done it. If you've suppressed something for a long time, it feels so scary to put it out there. And I've heard that many times and haven't thought a lot about it, but you don't really realize what that kind of fear is. But when you face it, that gives you strength. And that's the only thing I'm looking for. And at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, for all the people, I only care about the people it will help. For all the people that want to use anything against me, well, I can't care about them. I care about the truth, and for anybody who will get anything out of it, and that it just has to be that. That has to, keep me on track.
Yeah, you're right. I even take it to the next. I say that I don't really even when I was doing it, and when I still talk, I get to the point, and this may be a negative side, but I don't really give two shits what you think. I'm going to put this out here right now. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't, step off, walk on. Don't let the door hit you on the ass in the wet. If you want to talk shit, all right, well, haters are out there. That's just how it goes. That's the, so honestly, I think you're a bigger person by the way you've rationalized it than I am. But I do, just from talking to you, I don't have any doubt in my mind. You don't have any heartache going, you know what? Here's my finger. I don't give two shits what you think about me. I'm putting this on here because this is what I want to say, and I know it's going to help people down the road. So that's strength. And sometimes you have to be a bit, and I don't want to say arrogant, but it is a bit confident and arrogant when you do something like this, because somebody's going to find it and ridicule it. Right? There's trolls everywhere now. But in the end of the day, even if you've helped one person, which I guarantee you've helped me. It's worth it. It is tremendously worth it, man. And you're still working. You're still out there just driving on, teaching how to do. Oh, that's amazing. I'm sorry, Ian. I just said again before I start the show. It's like, Ian, I'm gonna let you lead this one, and here I go. I'm the one that talks all the time.
I call Fangoria Radio. Damn it.
Sorry, Ian. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
I'm so grateful to Igor and everything he did for the show, after the show, how he's kept in touch. I mean, to me, that really gets my heart, because, even though you only mentioned D. Snyder on your website, not me, which,
really? He is the big name. Let's be real here. Everybody knows Jay.
I got to give him a hard time. But no. He's always there, even if it's in the background. And that sort of long-term friendship stuff, I'm all about that. So
yeah, I know, which is why I have to see, because I don't even know if you're in Canada or New York right now. You're always between the two.
Right now, just before the pandemic, I came up to Canada, so that's where it is until things loosen up. Right now, there's a travel ban.
Yeah. Shock. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
no, what I was going to say though with your book and what you're saying about what you're putting out there and the feelings of should you put it all out there, I think it goes back to any story that we like to hear, any book we like to read, anyone that we look up to as a hero or someone that has inspired us. I think they all have major fuck ups in their life that they're transparent about, and that's what really inspires people. If you read a book and it's all look how great I am, look at these accomplishments. They're hiding something. They're not being completely transparent. I mean, I've talked about on the show before how Debbie knows I'm a huge Motley Crue fan. Debbie was actually working with me when I got my Dr. Feelgood tattoo. But when I hear about shit, not with me, but it was at that time. But when I hear Nikki Sixx talk about his heroin overdose and how it inspired the album Dr. Feelgood, all these things that people like that have gone through, that inspires me. People who have seen the absolute bottom. And I think when people read your book, as opposed to look at all the awesome films that I've done, look how great of a career I've had, look at all these amazing people I've met, which I'm sure will be included in there. I think those really low points are going to say, if Dr. Rochon got through this, I can get through what I'm going through.
Well, it may be, I'm hoping it'll be an exciting thing, but it's actually nothing about the film career. It's just focusing on 74 to 84. And so I figure if there's interest, I'll do another one that's about the film work and everything. There is a couple of films that were sort of life-changing for me, like Ladies and Gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains, which is, during that period when I met Paul Cook, the drummer of the Sex Pistols. No, this is not a name-dropping thing, but we did, like, for a year, have a relationship, and that will be in there, but that will be, like, the most, if you want to say, name-dropping, but that's just factual. That's just part of the story because that movie inspired me to get into movies, so it's vital. So I'm really focusing on all that stuff, that 10-year period in this book, From the Underbelly to the Underground. That's the name of the book. So then it's sort of like as I start to get into the underground filmmaking, just at the very beginning of that's kind of where it ends. And then if I decide to do the following 10 years or 20 years in the following book, then I can. But I think this should sort of stand on its own, because to just sort of wipe over those things in a cursory fashion, I think that would be a mistake.
Yeah. And and that's what I do believe people really, if I was going to read, and which I do, if I was going to read, when I read, or when I'm looking for something, that's what you want to hear. That 10 years, that's what how did she handle it? How did she go through, especially if people are aspiring to follow in your footsteps or getting, try to live somewhat to the life that you did as far as that lane they want to stay in. You got to learn how do you handle those failures? How did she do it? And how does she continue to be successful? And name dropping with the Six, so what? Name drop. That to me, that if you name drop in Sex Pistols, when you said that picked, holy shit, you did? You're with the drummer of the Sex Pistols? Okay, now I definitely got to read it, because it's just relatable. It really is. Yeah. It's like, oh, this is something else. All right, let's see what happened here. All right, but it's great. Oh, and name drop the fuck on this show. Name drop all you want. Come on, we're not like on a mainstream. I want you to name drop on here, and because I do feel people do need to read your story. Living on the street, I've never had to live on the street. I don't know what that experience is like. I can't talk about it. You can, and people, believe me, people will learn from it, or either one way, like, hey, there's no way in hell I better get my shit together because I don't want to live on the street like Debbie did, or maybe they'll find something. The book will pop up somewhere to somebody that's going down that road, and they'll figure out a way, by your example, how to pick themselves up and get out of it, which after talking, it's like, just, you got to work your ass off and keep moving forward. But no, it's amazing. I didn't know the Sex Pistol thing. I didn't know either. So that's honestly, now I'll read the book. I was going to ask you. I'll read.
I got another reader, Igor. Thank you.
Igor. Dude, I love it. I didn't know you called him Igor. That's it. Your call sign. I don't care, Ian. Your call sign is Igor. It fits.
If I did anything else here today, I changed his name back to Igor.
And that is like, it's like Harry Potter's wand, dude. That fits you right there. That fucking, the call sign fits you. It finds you. It never fails. That works awesome.
Yeah. You know what I wanted to talk about, going back to, the film industry and actually what's going on right now. I know that your life revolves around constantly filming a new movie, whether it is New York or Canada, and then really attending a lot of horror conventions. And the thing is, even before this, that business has been a little weird at the moment. Like, I don't know if you heard, which you probably have because you're in this whole world, like the Rock and Shock Festival, which is a tradition every year in Massachusetts. I've gone to several of them where it's a horror convention along with some music, whether it's Danzig playing or Insane Clown Posse some years. That's no longer going to be going on. That was pre-pandemic.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, from your perspective, I mean, you've seen the movie industry change so much throughout the decades, and it's about to make another major change because are there going to be horror conventions? What are movie theaters going to look like? I would love to hear your perspective.
Well, first, I can only speak to independent filmmaking, and I think of all the filmmaking that will sort of come to life first. I know people have all kinds of plans because they have lots of money for like Netflix specials and really big budget movies. They can handle doing all the extra precautions. I think the indie guys who really fly under the radar, they're going to cut some corners, right or wrong. So I think that they're going to get back into filming as soon as possible, maybe quicker, before anything's like fully thought out or figured out. I think they'll have masks and stuff like that, and I think it'll just be, you'll see what happens. As far as the conventions go, I have no clue. I know a lot of actors make the bulk of their money doing conventions. I don't. But I know a lot of them do. So basically, a lot of their job has just come to a halt like everybody else. And, for movie theaters, I guess they can only sell a far less amount of tickets. I think what I'm seeing is a lot of people are going to drive-ins, and they're coming back. Like,
that's awesome. Yeah.
A vengeance. And this indie movie, because the big studios up until now, they're going to change their mind probably, but they haven't been putting their movies in drive-ins. And so the indie movies that have become like the number one seen movies across the country. And as with everything else, as soon as Hollywood sees that, they're going to turn around and go, okay, now we're going to get all the drive-ins, we're going to fill them all up now that they saw that it works. And so I think the drive-in is going to have a nice little comeback until all the other stuff gets figured out.
And I would love it just to stay that way. You can't get that feel. I went to, where was it? I spoke in New Mexico, one of the few drive-ins left in America. And I spoke in this, I think it was Carlsbad, New Mexico, or somewhere down in that area. And I went and saw, it wasn't an indie movie. It was a mainstream movie, but I can't remember what it was. I think it was with the Rock. It was with the Rock. It was with the apes and based off that video game where the big ape and the alligator destroy Chicago and stuff. But just going to the drive-in again, it brought back the memories of growing up and how fun it was. And it's just, you're in your car. It's so comfortable. And I would love to see that come back, and seeing movies, especially the indie movies, at the drive-in again, I bring back just fantastic memories. I hope didn't even think about that, and it makes perfect sense. I'm not a very smart man, but I don't know why I didn't think, but that would be awesome to happen.
You know why you didn't think of it? Because most of them have been demolished. So we have a limited amount that you could even reopen. But what I'm hoping is that, they do well. I know regular theaters will figure it out because there's too much money at stake. Yeah. But I think, hey, the good comes out of everything, right? And if the drive-in comes out of this, has a comeback, then, something good came out of it. Would you go? Igor, would you go to the drive-in?
Yeah, for what I hear from here, like, I think that there's drive-in movie theaters, like one in Queens, for example, and they are doing this, and they're selling out like immediately. They're putting stuff up on the internet, and it's like immediately. It doesn't even matter what the film is. Right. So people are really eager for this.
Awesome. And would you go?
Yeah, if it's the right movie, if it's one of your movies, sure, I'll come out.
Kind of a movie marathon in one of these.
That would be amazing.
I was looking so forward to Top Gun 2 coming out, and to me, like, that is such a summer movie. I would love to see that at drive-throughs, and it's just kind of weird that it's being pushed back to Christmas time. I don't think of Top Gun as like a Christmas movie. It's a movie where you would see people probably pull up in their convertibles and in their shorts and their Top Gun hat or something. I mean, it's a total playing volleyball on the beach like in the first movie. It's that type of movie. And when I heard like it really just sucks when I hear about some of the stuff going on, because over here I look so forward to that Memorial Day air show, which I went to a year ago. I always put off going, and great time. And it was like that Top Gun and all of these summer plans now put on hold.
Yeah. Yeah, really. You know what? I don't want to go down a negative path because we were going so good for a while there. But one of the and this, I can't laugh and then say this, but it was really heartbreaking the other day, guys. One of the snowbirds crashed when they were doing a show for somebody when they were just took off, and it's there were the snowbirds up here that's part of the Air Force, and they
Sure.
put on special shows. And oh my God, that video circulated. I watched it. And it was just like I felt like my heart was just smashed with a brick. It was horrifying. I don't. Did you guys hear about that down there? Or?
Well, it's completely honest. As much as I was in and part of the news for about 3 years after Benghazi, I don't watch the news anymore. In fact, I don't know anything that's going on unless Ian tells me and says, "Hey, so no, I didn't see it, but I know that. No, I know. I worked with the Canadian Special Operations guys. I know the snowbirds are, and I didn't know that happened. Oh my God, yeah, that's one of the air shows. It's those pilots, but they're tremendous. They live on the edge, and pilots are just amazing. But God, and that was at the Memorial Day show. So obviously, man, well, God bless him and his family, and whatever happened. I didn't know, and it's not. We're not in it on a negative. That's what you talk about veterans and guys that have served. It's kind of we know what we get into, and I'm sure the pilot. I know he probably didn't think about it, but man, he was doing what he loved. And on the positive side, he's doing what if officer, he wouldn't still be doing it. It's not like, I got to get in this plane and fly at Mach 80 and have my adrenaline pump. I'm sure he was just doing what he loved to do. I will look at the video though. I will. I'm morbid or not. I'm human.
The two officers, is that what you would call them?
You call them off? Yeah, no, they're officers. If you're a pilot, you're an officer. Yeah.
Okay, so the two officers did eject. They did pass away at the end of it all, but they did eject out of the plane before it crashed. But unfortunately, they both they passed away after they had ejected. But so
That's a crazy story. I have not seen it yet either. And, if anyone who knows those guys, their families are listening, I mean, it's terrible to hear. And as Chris said, they do live on the edge. I wanted to ask you one thing career-wise as well as we're wrapping things up here. I know you said you were in the process of putting out some new films. What's the status of that, and what could we look forward to hopefully in the near future?
Oh, yeah, real quick. There's a few things with my dear friend Mel House, did a movie down in Texas called Mystery Spot. And no, it's not what you think it is. It's like a place. It's not that Mystery Spot. It's a place.
Is that bad that I'm the one that laughed on that? I'm sorry.
I laughed too.
I'm like, okay.
I'll go down that road in a minute, but not with this movie. But Mystery Spot, it's going to be amazing. It really is a type of movie that's hard to talk about, not give things away, but it's this sort of like place where everything is like, it's kind of this fantasy, sci-fi, paranormal, place that's in the middle of nowhere, and everything turns on its head. But Mystery Spot, I'm really excited for. We finished shooting that. What's upcoming? A movie called Freak that I'm going to be doing in Philly, all depending on when travel and shooting is going to ramp up again, and a sequel to Axe to Grind called Axe to Grind, and co-starring Stormy Daniels.
Oh, wow.
No. Okay, there's our one political comment on the whole show right there. That's dead.
I don't know. Is doing a movie with a porn star political? Like, I
was
don't
it? Well,
know.
Wasn't she part of? Didn't?
Yeah, no, she was. But I mean, but have you seen her actually like act on the film? Like, what's her acting abilities, Debbie?
I honestly don't know. I spoke to her on the phone once because we were talking about characters and stuff for maybe at the most 5 minutes, just a little touch base because, the producer's like, you guys are playing sisters. So, we're going to be shooting it in December. And it's kind of like a real whatever happened to Baby Jane type of thing.
Wow. Whoa.
She's kind of this agoraphobic sister, and I'm like kind of the mean, bitter one. And that's all I'll say about that because, we haven't shot it yet. So it's not really put there. But that's going to be shot in December. And so that's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's really going to be a lot of, I get to be really, really mean. So,
yes.
it's fun. There's quite a few other ones, honestly. There's working with Brett again. I did Bloody Ballet with him. That came out about a year ago, and he's doing another film, hopefully in August. Everything's kind of up in the air with the travel ban, right? So we got to see what happens and see what's going to come together. I'm sure sooner or later.
Hopefully so. If we mention Stormy Daniels, I gotta at least give you guys a funny last Debbie story that you'll find that I think the audience will find funny. Right. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, Debbie.
No,
I don't. So here, I'm new to it. Tell me.
So
I'm your audience right here.
When we shared an office at Fangoria, Debbie would always decorate with different, interesting things and props. And so at one point, what's up?
Are you? We're not. This doesn't. We're not talking about dildos.
No.
And stuff hanging from the walls. We're going to right now.
I'm going with that.
Okay.
This was done.
Fun. But what's go ahead. Tell it. I was making fun, but you go ahead. You do.
Yeah, no. That's why it's funny. That I'm gonna tell. It was an irony type of thing. Debbie, as a joke, because the book was just so absurd, would print out quotes from The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump, and she would be like, "We got to live by these rules," and because there were things in the book, I remember you would even show me in Donald Trump's book where he was like, "If you want to be successful, you got to have meetings with the best. I have meetings with people like A-Rod," and I remember I was like, "How does anyone even use this in their everyday life? I'm gonna call up A-Rod and schedule a meeting."
Are you kidding me? I'm having lunch with A-Rod this evening. I mean, lunch this evening. Did that make a lot of sense? I'm having okay. I screwed that one.
So
up I'm all messed up.
I just remember you would put up these quotes, and I mean, who would have ever thought all these years later that he really would become the president? And it happened.
It's insane because I did it as such an outrageous joke. I would put up things like, and the funny thing is, I do actually sleep very little, but stupid things like only losers sleep more than 4 hours a night. And all these ridiculous quotes new ones every day, and just to make people laugh.
Oh,
you Twitter. He didn't even have the outrageous Twitter stuff.
You gotta kiss my ass too. Since I left the military, you ain't getting my ass up at 6 a.m. F you. I'm sleeping 12 hours. I mean, Ian's we start the podcast at 11, and he didn't tell you. He'll call me at 10:50. You ready? Yeah, I'm just getting out of bed, getting some coffee. What time did you go to bed? Midnight. I'm fine, but then that felt good. Them 10 hours. So, oh Lord, I got to tell some more stories, Dad. We got to have you on again. I know we're gone over a little bit, but I do want one because I am coming back from the Donald Trump book back to the Debbie Rochon book. I do because of your story, and I'm telling you, it's going to help. It's going to help people out there. Can you tell people again the name of it? Well, and please name drop all you want, because I'm very passionate on helping people get through dark times, because I've had a Glock in my mouth twice. Oh. I've done the crying game in the shower, literally. Where so could you do it again? Because I do. I think your story definitely, because I can't relate to a lot of stuff you went through. I can't talk about it. You can. You've been through it. The name of the book, and then when it's going to come out again, and please, because I think that's really, really important. And I know I'm interested. completely
Oh,
interested
well,
in reading.
you know what? Both of you guys, I really want to thank you guys because you guys are giving me more encouragement to be the way I have to be in my approach to the book. So I'm saying that you have given me back just by talking to you guys
Oh,
today. Honestly,
well,
no bullshit.
it's
Uh,
our honor.
so the book is called From the Underbelly to the Underground, and
Okay.
it should still be 2021. It could be 2022. I'm not sure yet because of the pandemic. It's
Sure.
thrown all the physical stuff. It's kind of thrown it off a bit, and it really is a physical book because this particular publishing house, they do like an amazing. While you will be able to get it as an ebook, it's more of like a presentation. They put
Okay.
so much into the design and everything. So yeah, so I'll have to sort of keep you guys up to date on when, but From the Underbelly to the Underground.
And it's all the different book outlets you can get it from, even because you got a publisher in UK, or is it only like on your website, or when it does come out, or have you guys not figured out the distribution yet?
Well, it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be the type of thing where if you bought directly from them, they would be the best served because
Okay.
they are a boutique place.
Sure.
But it will be in bookstores. It will be on the usual Amazon outlets, like that. All the places that you buy books online, it will be there
Sure.
for sure. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I thank you, and thank you for doing that. I know it's always hard. I just have a hard time too. So when I'm on shows to sell my own stuff because I feel like I feel like a douchebag. But it is. People need to read it, and people need to hear about failure and how you overcame it. That's success right there. That's how you're successful. Not sleeping less than 4 hours a night. Because that's how you become.
That's right.
It's an honor,
No,
Debbie.
over here. It's been an honor for me too. Thank you guys. Thanks for your patience. And remember, Ian is Igor.
Igor, yes. I take Igor on everything now.
It was Igor of the 666, and I did a song for Tony Timpone.
You did a song? Oh my! And why aren't we playing that on the Battleline podcast?
Oh, it was a classic.
Hell?
But so Debbie, say that again, Debbie. I'm sorry.
What's a classic? I love it. He rapped.
Yeah,
oh my God.
It was fun. I really enjoyed making that, and so it's DebbieRochon.com, at Debbie Rochon on Twitter, and at official Debbie Rochon on Instagram. And before we wrap up, I do have to mention one thing. So we got this awesome new music from Jimmy Allen that I want to use as the new theme music for the show. And I do want you to still be the voice of Battleline Podcast, but I just wish you had like a professional sounding microphone. Because I love your voice, Debbie, but it's always like Debbie on the phone. So I don't know if you could, I want to use your voice on the new intro, and I don't want anybody, if they hear a new intro, to be like, why is it not Debbie? But I don't know. Are you able, like this microphone I'm on right now that I'm doing all my voiceover work on it's not a lot. It's, I could even check right now, but I would want, because this song Jimmy Allen gave us is so fucking awesome, I want to have like a real in-studio sounding voiceover. You know what I mean?
Okay, send me a link to that. And if I can't get in like a professional studio over the next, very short time.
Which is tough. Yeah.
Yeah, but I am supposed to be doing ADR for The Man in Room 6, a movie that I did, but they're doing the sound design now, so I have to do a bunch of ADRs. If I can't get that done right away, send me a link and I will damn well buy that.
Yeah, this was not a lot, and I use it for all my voiceover stuff. And I have to tell you, Debbie, you should get on Fiverr if you're not already on. And this is like not an ad for them, but it's Fiverr. So, because you have a great voice, I think if you put up like some of the intros you've done over the years, and I've been getting a ton of gigs, and now I just got a gig for this company that has like worked with Alec Baldwin and stuff, and I'm voicing this survival podcast. So I think it would make sense for you to like have just a good microphone for your setup.
Absolutely would. You're right. You're right.
So yeah, I mean, I just want to get a new Debbie Rochon voiceover, and if you could do it, it would be great because I want to keep your voice.
No, we're keeping your voice. There's no if. I'll
come over and smack me.
I'll float you a loan. Okay, you can pay me back when the book comes out, and you'll get the microphone. Just
right on. Yes. That's awesome.
Thanks, Deb. I Thanks again, Debbie. I really appreciate it. It was fun talking to you and finally putting a face with the actual face that I see on the trauma, the trauma. I would say trauma, but if people are correct, no, it's trauma. The trauma movies, because that's you'll be shocked at how many the military guys, that stuff, that especially us older military guys that are getting to our 50s now, that's what we grew up on, and that's what we watched when we were young guys in the military, or even before that. The Toxic Avenger still is the classic, and man, it's just cool having you on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Debbie.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, man. That was, it's funny when I drop her from the call, it says Ian Scotto kicked out Debbie Rochon from the call. That sounds like very harsh.
You're such an asshole.
Yeah, it sounds harsh.
Stop kicking people out of the call.
She was great though. I mean, I didn't know we would even get that deep. I thought it would be kind of lighter of movies she's done and kind of the Lloyd Kaufman, and I'm glad she did. I mean, it fits with what we do, and Debbie has gone through a lot, and
yeah.
I think when people think actress, they think of the luxurious lifestyle Hollywood actress. Debbie is like a New York street actress and does this because she loves it. She is not a millionaire. She will tell you herself,
she grinds. She forge ahead. You just keep forging and grinding. And I always tell people when they're going through hard times, just grind, just keep grinding. And that's what it sounds like she does. That's what I get when we talk to her, and that's the people that honestly, though, at the end of the day, the grinders are the ones that are the happiest. That's what I see. From my opinion, granted, people I can't say the gazillionaires are not happy, because I'm not one, but I can tell you, having a little bit of money, especially during that 3 years that I was doing stuff, hot and heavy, you were always gone. And you weren't grinding. You were getting manipulated and used, and it was very empty. The more money you had, the more money, more problems. Seriously, and people are, bullshit. Well, that's just my opinion. That's from my experience. So finding that happy medium where you're happy doing what you're doing, but you're also making a good living at it, to me, but you're also supposed to be able to balance that with family or whatever extracurricular stuff you do that's healthy for you. That's the people who are the happiest, and that's where I'm at, and so it was awesome. So when we heard those stories, man, it fit right in, and to me, Igor, to me, it does it. To me, if anything that we show, from veterans, battle hardened veterans, to rock stars, to actors like Debbie, everyone that is successful has gone through something and pushed ahead and forced through it and faced obstacles. And to compare these obstacles, well, it's relative to the person that you are, but we aren't that freaking different. We aren't different really in this world. We aren't different, even though we may want to pick sides on our political issues. That's why I don't think you should, because if anything, our show shows that, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter what political side you're on. If the fucking Murphy and Karma are going to get you, they're going to get you, and you're going to have to figure out how to get over it. And does it make a difference if you are a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or whatnot? You got to find a way to get over it and through it and around that obstacle and still be successful, or you can quit, and it doesn't make a difference who you vote for. If you quit, you're still bad things are going to happen to you and your family, or you can continue to move forward and good things are going to happen to you. So that's why I listen to her and talk to her, because full disclosure, like we've talked about before, if you want to get into politics, no, Debbie doesn't like Trump. I don't give two shits if she does or not. But does it make a difference? That makes no difference at all, that to her and her drive to be successful and to also deal with obstacles and failure, just like a person that thinks Trump rocks on water. And I think that's important for people to hear, whether you like it or not, politics or not, doesn't make a difference. Failure's failure, and the ability to overcome failure doesn't make a damn bit of difference what political side you're on. So my end state there, as I'm off my soapbox there, Igor, brother, is to say,
so funny. That's gonna revive that name.
Is to say, who gives two shits? That's why I don't even get into politics anymore. I don't give.
No, I get it. I could tell you that, with the whole lockdown here, I was spending way more time on social media than I normally was, and I realized I don't fucking like social media.
I know.
I'm off my personal Facebook page. I'm just using the battle line stuff because it's the necessary evil. You got to, feed
Yeah,
that
yeah.
beast and
Yep.
and get the word out and have people discover what we're doing, which is positive. But I could tell you, man, like I went for a workout in the park yesterday at where I normally go.
Awesome.
That has the pull-up bar and the push-up bars at the ground. But the point is, like, it was actually the first time in a while that I had my phone away for like a good 2 hours doing a workout. And I was like, this is what I enjoy. This is what I thrive doing. And actually, this has been overall pretty good for me. I didn't mention in the intro, and I mentioned at the end with Debbie, and that like through this pandemic, I was on Fiverr regularly getting voiceover gigs, and I landed this gig for
Yeah,
this
you
new
got a good
show In
one.
the Wild,
Yeah.
which people can check out. It's on Spotify now. It's called In the Wild. Just the trailer is up. But basically, between the sponsors that keep us going for Battleline Podcast and now this, I'm gonna be able to like go back to making a pretty good living. I might not go back to being a personal trainer, probably won't, because I want to just focus on this stuff. And that's really what I want to do. I mean, my goal in life always is to really work for yourself and create things
Yeah.
myself, rather than work for a company full time. And it is harder. You don't get the healthcare benefits when you work for yourself. You got to figure that all out on your own. But I just know doing a podcast with you, doing this thing for In the Wild, which I love, which is a series on people surviving traumatic experiences, whether they're caught in the woods for 2 days in a storm,
Yeah.
and just all positive karma. I don't like to work for any company where it's like, oh, they're doing something that doesn't match my values. That's the type of thing that keeps me up at night. And I think if you
Yeah.
work 100% for yourself and you're doing things that you feel positive about, it's a tougher road, but it's definitely a better feeling. So I mean, I really thank God and thank my own drive, and my positivity in myself, which is God given, of course, that I'm really making things work during this, and it's been really cool. I had a vision for this podcast, and it actually changed the more people that we've interviewed, because neither you and I didn't sit down and say like we're gonna
Nah.
have this connecting theme of
This was the thing. Yeah, we
overcoming
did.
obstacles. Yeah.
In fact, we had the exact opposite. We were like, I don't know. Let's just see. Everyone was like, let's just see how it goes. The theme will come. I think we did say that. That was when after that event where I spoke in Atlantic City and you came. We were like, what's it? I don't know. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, I think you
The
even
theme will
said we
find
have to
itself.
have a theme. Like we have to have something that separates us. And it's actually very different than what I was doing previously, because we do talk to veterans, but we talk more so about the overcoming obstacles than the
Yeah.
technicalities or the intricacies of everything. And I personally like it. And I mean, knowing you as long as I have, I know that that's your main thing, is never quit,
Yeah.
keeping
Oh,
your
yeah.
motivation up. And I think that's why we talk to the people that we do. Having Phil Labonte on for the next episode, if all
Yeah.
goes accordingly. Like, he's a guy who's overcome different things. And I know he's a guy, I don't know if we'll get into it, but gone through divorce, and then the death of his guitar player has been very
Yeah.
traumatic.
Ollie.
Did
Ollie's
you
a
know
good
him?
guy.
Did you know
Yeah,
Ollie?
I knew Ollie, and actually became friends after I did the Madness video for him. And actually I watched that Madness video again, and I'm like, man, that we actually did a damn good job on that music video. That was a good video. But the
You did a great job, man.
oh,
I mean, you came
I'll
off
be.
as a professional actor.
I honestly, I was going. That was the time where I was going through some really. I was all, dude. I was all fucked up. That was when I was divorced. That was when I was in some bad relationships, and I did getting pulled a million different ways. I'm sitting there thinking about missing my family again. My son, my third boy was, what was he, 1 or 2? So I'm thinking to myself, God, here I go again. I swore I was going to be able to spend time with my kids, and here I am, not even deployed, and I'm gone again. I was just awful. So when the director, and he was the coolest guy in the world, the director guy, I loved him, fantastic, and he said, just act like you do you want to kill yourself? So when it wasn't that far, I wasn't that far off from it, man. And honestly, when the little girl came in and I met her, the little girl, it's supposed to be my daughter in the video. I imagined my daughter running in the room, and you could see the happiness I was in my eyes. Well, that's because that's what I pictured. I pictured my daughter, because I would have been that happy if I would have been able to see her that day, because at that point in time, Tanya and I were pretty estranged. We were pretty estranged. We were estranged. We were divorced, fully divorced, and the only thing that kept me happy, that I would smile at, it wasn't money, it wasn't the gigs, it wasn't meeting people and getting wrecked. In fact, that was just a burden. It felt awful. It was a burden, and nothing against people that met me. They were the nicest in the world. It's just my mind state. It was when I got the chance to see my kids. But when you're divorced, you only have certain hours you can see them, and so that was what was difficult. So I was just imagining. And that little girl in the video at that age looked similar to my daughter too. So and yeah, so it was Ollie, and Ollie. I think Ollie saw, and Ollie and I became pretty good friends. Not best buddies or nothing. Just it was like it was, but it was like, hey, it wasn't like, hey dude. It was just like, hey man, it's good to see you. I passed him in the airport when I had to go to Providence to speak near Providence, and him and the other guitar player, awesome guy too. They were coming through because they were coming home. He lived up in that area, so they flew into the Providence airport. And I remember seeing him and gave a big hug. And actually, there on my old Instagram account, we did a great little picture of us both heads smiling. My short haircut, his long ass hair, and we're both got our cheesy ass grins going. And then then a few weeks later, he was dead. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if Phil will get into it because I know he's commented on it before, so I'm not saying anything that's private. Like, from Phil's perspective, he died under pretty mysterious circumstances.
Yeah, and that's up to them. If he wants to talk about that, but I'm not. We're not fucking shock value media.
No, I would like to hear Phil's take, because that was truly his brother in that band, and I know he's very upset about, he wants answers,
Well, and I think anybody deserves answers if it was nefarious or bad or things happen. And I don't know. I don't know the whole story either. All I know is that Ollie was awesome, and Ollie and I would talk about, because he was going through a divorce, or was at that time during the video, and he actually, which was a shock to me. Yeah, because I just met him. He wanted to know how divorce life was, and we actually talked a lot off the camera about. Because I think he was
at the time where you're like, it's awesome.
At the time, I was honest with him. Like, because I wasn't, because it wasn't on. Like, but I was also, because there was no way me and Tanya were gonna be able to be married at that time either. I said, dude, if you can't be faithful in this, or if she's not, then no, you don't need to be in it. No, don't. It's hard though. It's not not all sunshine and roses and rainbows coming out your butthole. It's not that at all. So just know, if that's what you want to do, then do it. And then he also got into the guitar, and how I didn't know this, he actually taught lessons he would go down to South America and teach lessons to people how to play guitar when he wasn't doing the tour run. And I'm like, that's where I'm like, wow, this dude's a cool dude. He loves kids. He loves children. He wants to take care of them, and he's teaching them down in, I can't remember if he said Peru or Costa Rica or where he said, but he goes down there and teaches kids how to play guitar. I was like, man, that's fucking awesome. And also, just bottom line is, the dude was a tremendous guitar player, and he fit the stereotypical guitar player look. But when you talk to him, dude was brilliant. He was intelligent. You can just tell by talking to the dude. It's an extremely intelligent individual. I mean, he didn't talk like a rock and roll guitar player. He talked like a chemistry teacher. And this is all. That's what was so cool about him. So yeah, man, I remember even that short time that I got to be friends with him, and I've known Phil a lot longer than I have Ollie. But even that short time, I was amazed by just, he wasn't what I thought he was going to be. And even he actually just a genuine good heart. And whenever you're going to do stuff with kids, brother, and you have that heart that you want to help kids play guitar, whatever, and you're doing it on your own, that to me shows a lot of integrity. Because kids are saints. Kids are the positive things in this world. They're untainted, and being a role model like he was, that's just amazing. So yeah, I like to, of course I'd like to know, but I don't think we're ever going to know the truth of what took place. And I'll just leave it at that. If people want to research Ollie, they can, and all that remains. And then if Phil wants to talk about it, fine. If not, dude, Phil's a fucking rocker. Still, 2 Weeks is still one of the greatest rock songs ever made. And Phil was also a veteran as well. People don't know
Yep.
Lamont was in the military. He was a Marine, and also he's a 2A guy. He's a gun, but he also is a fitness buff. The dude's from when he was in good shape, but the dude's fucking jacked. Him and his bass player. I call him Bubbles because that's on his. I always thought his Instagram was Bubbles, Mr. Bubbles. But those guys are. I think they're power lifters, man. Phil got jacked up. He's yoked, dude.
Yeah.
Dude lifts, and so we can have a good conversation with him.
No, we will, and yeah, we have a lot of other stuff planned. So June, we're going back to one show a week, guys. So for the month of June, you're going to hear shows every Monday. I will hopefully be back in studio, and we'll get some in-studio guys. I know you want to get like Frank Rippey on. We'll definitely do it for like June or July for sure. We have to.
I will. Yeah, I gotta I gotta reach out to Sergeant Major. So Sergeant Major Grippy, or anybody that knows Frank, if you're listening, let him know I want him on the show. I just haven't reached out to him yet.
Yeah, we'll get him. There's just so many people because, like I said, I want to get Scott Dwyer on to talk about his brother. There's and then also the people in studio. I would love to get some more New York people come in studio. But yeah, with that, any questions, comments, battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. If you want shirts for the show, they are awesome. Tonto-apparel.myshopify.com. Although this was an ad-free show, thanks to everybody who sponsors shows, whether it's Everyday Grind Coffee or Fort Scott Munitions or Ned, all of them are great. And, we spaced out the ads this month and actually gave us a nice boost in plays. A lot of people checking out shows and people enjoying different shows. Some people said the David Silvera episode was like their favorite yet because they grew up on corn. And as you were saying, some people really love the Jimmy Allen episode. So we're doing something right, I think.
Yeah, I think, and then of course everybody that loved the Jack Carr episode.
Jack Carr was huge. That's gonna be one of our biggest.
That was another one where people. It wasn't Jack Carr's SEAL service. It was another guy that came up to me at a course. I think it was the Oklahoma course. And it was the Chicago course. Another one because obviously Jack was after Oklahoma. But they came up to me and it was Jack's dealing with his child that has a disability. I don't know what the PC term is. I'm going to say it, but how Jack had to deal with that along with his service and how he's remained a strong family man. To me, it was like, wow, I heard that. And it's like, I'm going, it's like, I feel the same because I have a child. I have a child that has a disability and hearing that from Jack that pushed through it, like, man, that meant the world to me that there's this guy this warrior, but he still had issues and obstacles at home that he got through, and obviously he's still successful. I know he didn't really touch on it a ton, but I think just people hearing.
He touched on it a good amount, I thought, and you know what? It actually made me think more of Ross Perot, honestly, when he said how Ross Perot really made the effort to get his son the help that he needed. Not for publicity. He was not a politician at the time. Not to say, look how great I am. I think it's because it was a fellow service member that he cared about. And it is great hearing those human stories because the way the media spins Ross Perot, he's just the guy who ruined the election for Bush. Well, he's a lot more than that.
Yeah. And by Jack telling it too. And Jack's very well respected within the community, but also he's a very well respected author, of course. And now even more so a very well respected family man, which is important. I think especially more important than anything in today's society is being a respected family man. When family before the hippity bippity virus came out, dude. I think family was looked at as an afterthought. And now people are saying, wait a second, no, family is extremely important, and it's to have a good life you need a strong family. So I think Jack's episode was perfect at the right time, and what he said was perfect as well. And Jack, if you're listening out there, it did resonate with at least one person because they came up and mentioned that episode to me, and specifically you talking about your son. That was awesome.
Yourself, yeah,
That's all for this week's Battleline Podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk, so make sure you're subscribed. And keep up with the show 24/7 on Facebook and Instagram at Battleline Podcast. Also on Twitter at Battleline Pod. As always, never quit.